Hi guys, welcome back to Manifest with Armine. My name is Armine and I'm a love attraction consultant. Today we have a surprise. I have a surprise guest. It is Tigran. You've heard of him and I thought I'd bring him on. This is not what he does for a living, but I thought I'd bring him on so you guys can meet him and we can get some insights.
I have interesting insight to give. How's my breath?
It's okay. I did my breath check before, so I think we're okay.
Hi, everybody.
And yes, so some of you ask, okay, let me start with this. Some of you have asked or wonder that if you are into manifesting and understand natural law of attraction, are into Neville's work, if your partner has to necessarily have the same beliefs or understandings. And I think the answer is no. For those of you who know who Lyndall is, he's mentioned that his wife does not really care for or is not really interested in this stuff. However, it doesn't mean that that's detrimental in any way. But we kind of talk about we actually talk about this stuff a lot. We don't always agree on approach. We don't always agree on every aspect of it, but we have our own ways of seeing it. And if you've ever heard a coach say that they can't coach someone who's very close to them, that is very true. I do not coach him.
Coach them? You can't even set up for a video if you're too close to
we had some technical difficulties with the setup, but anyway, so when we discuss this stuff, it's not like when I discuss it with you. It's very different. I'm not at all like teaching him or coaching. We just have different insight about it.
Partially because I don't take it seriously.
He doesn't take me seriously. I don't take him seriously either, but that's probably a good thing overall. So Tigran's approach, I think I would say, is more sometimes more scientific, I think, but not necessarily like in a in defining it in scientific terms sort of way. Just seeing it overall more as like a the way things work, the way the mind things work, more in, what would you say, like in process or
maybe geometric representations, and at the same time, I mean, math isn't my best subject, but I do have an understanding of how laws and principles work based on mostly by experimentation, and you kind of just keep your own guide on it and what you pick up. And of course, I always absorb what she has to say into things because she's deeply into this type of studies and esoteric mysticism and things like that. So it's always exciting though, in every way to adopt into my life too. So
This is so weird, but yes.
I'm drinking black coffee today. I usually have some creamer in here, but
Yes, in a very fancy cup.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fancy cup. So yeah, and my approach, I think, is more like honestly, sometimes he talks about this stuff a little too in depth, and I just I lose focus because I like to keep it on a more practical level, and he likes to go deep into like Shiva and comparing that with how things work and the atom and
their theories, but there's truth behind them.
Yeah, he likes to blend the similarities between the religious perspectives and the scientific kind of like the way things work.
So here we are.
Yeah, and we're both politically correct in most things we do, so I guess that helps sometimes. But
we'll stay within the boundaries.
Yes. There is something, we have a loose topic that we thought we'd talk about, kind of, which was synchronicity.
Oh. Lord. We could talk about that one. So?
I'm gonna start it with something that I always, when I think of the word synchronicity, oh no, that's not the word synchronicity, that was another word. Oh yeah, no, okay, it's a synchronicity though. This is the first like memory I have of like having a synchronicity while being aware of all this stuff. Do you need to?
No, it's fine.
So
I'll turn it off.
this is like 10 years ago, probably. Do you remember we were driving down the freeway in Burbank, like past the IKEA or past, and we exited Victory.
Okay.
So
I remember that.
yeah, and so we were on the freeway on the way home, probably from something, and
IKEA. I think it was IKEA.
no, we were coming from like the beach or something.
Okay.
Anyway, so we were driving and talking about this stuff loosely, and it was one of those things where I had a moment of feeling that was, I think it's too centered on this side. Come closer.
It's fine.
So we had like a moment where I felt, sorry, I feel like he's not in the frame. So we had a moment where I felt very much like weird. Like it was just this like weird feeling of like a Twilight Zone kind of feeling almost. Like I was feeling very much the whole like how we're non-physical and physical, and you know, some of you know this as you learn more about natural law and law of attraction, how everything is connected. Sometimes you have some woo-woo moments that they feel woo-woo. But I couldn't think of the word. I couldn't think of the word to describe to him how I was feeling in the moment. And then like a minute later we took the exit, and right on the like where the off-ramp is of the exit, at the end was like a stop sign. There was an intersection, and right in front of us, you know those freeway dividers that's like a short wall?
Yeah, it's like a roadblock type of thing.
Yeah, like one just happened to be put up against the wall where you would see it when you go to the first stop sign after the freeway, and on it, in like this big stencil, it said ineffable. And I didn't know exactly what that word meant, but I remember...
I thought it was a bad word. But...
Not a bad word. And so it said ineffable, and I was like, what does that word mean? Because I had remembered hearing it recently. I didn't know exactly what it means, but it, you know, it stood out to me, so I looked it up right away, and it said something that's not explainable or expressible, you know? And it was weird because like I felt like it was just synchronicity to what I was just thinking a minute ago, where I wanted to explain to him the feeling, and the feeling was ineffable, and in that moment I felt like I couldn't describe it.
So it can only be felt, sort of, huh? But...
Yeah, like it can be experienced, but it's not something that I can really, you know, communicate in a way that any physical description would really capture. So yeah, and I told him that. I was like, ineffable. I was like, I looked it up and I was like, this is exactly what I was feeling a minute ago, and this is exactly how I still felt like that. That feeling was still lingering. So that was really weird, and I took a picture of it. It was like, cameras were not even that great back then, but I took a picture. I still have it.
It was decent, yeah.
So that's what I think of, like when we think of, say, synchronicity, that's what I always think of. And then before I let you talk as much as you want about this, yeah, synchronicities, you guys will notice too that like when you're aligned in a certain way, like the way you know it is because you'll come up with a lot of things that seem to synchronize in that moment. Like you'll be saying a word and you notice that you're literally looking at that word also at the same time. Or you'll hear a nearby conversation, a word stand out, and that word was in your mind already, right?
Yeah.
We do that all the time, like when we're out, like we
a lot of
stuff
different
like
experiences of that sort, yeah.
Yeah, and then or like numbers lining up, and it could be either a number that you particularly like favor or have some meaning tied to,
or a word you haven't thought of for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden it comes up on a bumper sticker in front of a car, in front of you on a car, you know?
Yeah, and it has like some kind of connection to what you've been like recently thinking about or asking about. So
I spoke to John Lennon that way once. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
No, I'm not kidding.
Go ahead.
No, but there's a lot of stories like that, but one of them was, I remember when I was working in Calabasas, I had a nice souped up car at the time, which was a Subaru WRX STI for any of you guys who are interested, and gals too, of course. But and I was driving down one of the roads. I was going over 80 miles an hour, and then I was listening to the Beatles. Ooh, was that Magical Mystery Tour? I don't remember if it was on a White Album or not, but there's a part of a song, I don't remember which one it was, but it said there's a policeman down the street. And it's funny because I slowed down because of that message, and then there was a highway patrol who was probably like 2 streets down, you know, and had that message not sort of like spoken to me, I was clearly going to get a ticket. But that's one small example. Can I keep talking?
Yeah, keep talking all you
But
want. We could both go on forever.
I don't know. It's I see kind of the whole thing as this sort of I mean, it's a magical experience because there's like a whole, I don't want to get scientific or my interpretation on this, but it's a whole like neural network. The whole universe works that way, and it's constructed of sort of particles and atoms and things like that. So we live in the physical reality, but the mental, to me, it says that the mental energy or whatever you put mentally out there, what you're thinking of, whether it's objective, it's your goal, that shows you that there really is no separation between your thought and what you're looking for in the reality. So if that speaks to you in that way, it says that the only separation of fabric is the fact that matter is separate, and there's the air between us. So in most senses, it's sort of like an enlightening feeling because you feel like things are going your way, or you're being sent a message, and it is maybe. It's how you could perceive that, but I do think that it is lining you up with something because outside of our physical reality, everything's governed by particles, and I'm not a scientist or like what do you call that, like particle theory. There's like quantum mechanics involved, laws of electrodynamics, and things like that, which obviously play a big role in how this whole thing works. But I see it as sort of like a, did I talk too much? No. Like a way that life is meant to be have a purpose, and if these things weren't there, we would just kind of be like level 1 consciousness animals walking around like passive animals, such as a bad example like sheep and things that are made to produce milk or meat
inside.
Yeah, or whatever, you know what I mean, if you're a carnivore. But so if your consciousness is higher, you're not on like a predatorial thing, but you realize that life has more to it than just what we're caught up in here. You know what I mean? That sometimes it does give you these hints. And I remember, this is actually the thing like I want to point out. Remember, you told me Einstein had a phrase. It said, "Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous." And then
really,
yeah, and you said it's God's way of remaining anonymous, and also God's way of revealing itself. And I thought that's
depending on which.
Yeah, I thought that's pretty great. Manifest with Armine, ladies and gentlemen. That's what she said. But
I didn't say you said Einstein.
But that's how I see this whole thing, is that in any situation, your worst days, your best days, that there's sort of like, you feel like there's more to this than just your everyday. There's a guidance, and it's true because it's a particle world, and everything's sort of been rendered out from that. Whether they made it into this like figurative form of Shiva, or what's the one with the 6 arms that dances around?
I don't know. I have to ask my friends.
Yeah, that, and some of what we have is like prophets and things like that. But they're all yeah, it all talks about,
they're all personifications
exactly
of energy and the different processes, and how just like how the atom, right, is the smallest particle, right? There's the atom, and there's Adam in the Bible, and there's atom was also
exactly.
We can go to that later.
We're defined by that. So basically the physical laws in this, we have time and space, but outside that are dimensions that we're not aware of, because our consciousness has sort of a limit too, and we're the closest to that, like gateway where we could capture what not capture but feel maybe what the Creator wanted us to feel, because our world is mainly dictated by feelings. I feel like everybody feels like, but so that kind of just brings everything together, that you see that everything is working together. It's synchronized, it's a whole. So it's like one big giant system, the solar and everything else that, kind of brings us to our senses and things like that, to make life more interesting. And,
And those messages that you're talking about, it's more like, it's not even a message from outside. It's like from our inner being, or from our higher self, or God self, right? So it's like, it's not even like, it's something that we don't know that's being revealed to us through someone else and they're giving a sign. It's partly it's from our subconscious mind and the unseen making itself seen. And the reason it's a synchronicity is because we're finally aligning with that. That's why it's showing up in that moment.
Yeah, it's a big transmissional network, and I mean, or neurotransmittic, or whatever the word is, but we're part of it, and you can't separate from it. You know, we're one form of energy.
Whether you like it or not, I mean, those are the laws within which we're working, right, in this universe, in this reality. So
it's not like, you know, because we always look for sort of feeling like, oh, we're object goal oriented. You know, every human is to a certain extent. So, you know, like if we're looking for, let's say, prosperity, someone could be looking for, I don't know, a material object or a relationship or whatever. Those things those frequencies do tell us that, you know, we're on the right path, and that there isn't much separation from what you're thinking and what you want to get. So, you know, that barrier is like the flip side of anything, you know, like a coin. You have one side, you have the other, but between all that chaos, extremes, lies the harmony, which is in the center. So we're always trying to seek that. And then when you catch that, you must be, I mean, synchrony and harmony are sort of the same word, because, you know, in music you harmonize. Yeah, you harmonize notes exactly with different pitches and things to bring a clear understanding where it's perceivable, it's beautiful, it's delightful, you know, you feel good, it's stimulating. So that's what it is. It's you know, the world should be stimulating, that you realize as much as you know, the negative there is, but on the flip side, it's just that small separation barrier that can make it just as good. And that's kind of what I get from it, that you know, it's it's what you want is actually right there. You don't have to dig deep into it. That's something like where before I thought, you know, deep thinkers and philosophers, they think so deep. Of course they think deep, but it's not like you have to, that knowledge is in a cave where you have to, you know, hunt for treasure or something right like there. That. Yeah. Right there. So it's just on the flip side, but humans feel like, you know, they extend that to like a length where they cannot, they feel like it's not, they can't reach that. They can't hold on to whatever
they think it's separate from them, and has to be revealed, but it's literally underlying all the other crap we have in our belief system, in our paradigms. It's right there. You just have to not be covering it and shielding it with all this garbage that we've built up over time, you know, to hide it. And when you see something as easy, then it is easy, right? If you see something as hard, yeah, you're gonna have to dig real deep and do a lot of work and get very tired before you get to it.
Yeah.
But that's self-prophecy. That's.
I mean, I'm not an electrician, but it's sort of like, you know, a circuit, or when you run energy through a wire, it wants to flow, right? And then you could guide the circuit, you could direct it or whatever, you could put relays, this, that. And but generally, if you just let the energy flow, and that's another thing actually. Remember we were talking about how these things sort of happen, because when you think of a thought, it's not a thought with resistance, or you feel like you think extra. It's sort of something that passes through you.
Yeah.
And then you just let it go, and then you realize that something manifested from that, like, real quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why people say, how come the things I don't care about happen so quickly, they manifest so quickly, the small things, but the big things take time. It's not because that takes long and this takes short. It's because you literally didn't suffocate it into not manifesting yet.
Right, and some people want to call that belief, hope, or whatever interpretation. They're just words that define feelings, but if somebody doesn't understand the word and doesn't understand the feeling, then, you know. But all that is guided, and I think that's a great thing. And I think some people have a natural, heightened sense of that. Some people are real, like, sorcerers. You know, they could make the best out of the moment, whether it's in business, whether in what. But everybody has their.
Basically, that's mental alchemy. That's
exactly
what it is, because you're using the energy of the situation to mold it into being something else. That's why when someone walks into the room, sometimes you can feel the energy change, because the way they're aligned, the way they're, you know, vibrating, actually helps everyone kind of form into a different pattern, and everyone just feels different because they're able to easily do that because they don't think it's hard. And the only reason it's easier for the person who walks in and changes energy of a room to something better, anyone can do that. It's just they're used to being that person, and they identify with that because maybe they did it once or twice, unknowingly, and then someone said, hey, whenever you're walking through, I feel good. So they get used to being like that person. So that alchemy happens naturally. Whereas it could be the opposite too, right? Like, most people walk into a room and all of a sudden, like just the energy just feels off, It's not because you don't like that person. It's just something, it feels dragging, or something feels like a damper has been put on the conversation.
Yeah. So it's a wholeness to it, I guess if you could just view the world sort of through that, the happier eye, and you could really manage your moment and seize the moment, as they say, and make the best out of it. Then you're gonna see your thoughts, I think, manifest more clearly, because you don't have resistance on the circuit. It just keeps flowing to everybody. And like I said, I have my limits and things I'm trying to learn, and there that's I think the beauty of the world, that everybody brings so much diversity and different heightened senses and skills, and we just fill that in, and as long as we could keep going and sort of enlighten one another and fill in those weaknesses and bring up everybody's chart, to get to that as close as you can to the best version of yourself, to live a happy life for yourself and your family and people near you. I guess that's the thing. It's just a short experience that could be felt lengthy. It depends how you look at it, but within that experience, you have to really just have fun and make the best out of it. Leave it good, no matter what you do, even if your work is crazy, bizarre. But at the end, the rendition should be the good, in any sense.
What are your thoughts of perfection? And because a lot of people watching this, I mean, just from what I've observed, I guess I could say that a lot of people who watch YouTube videos are feeling like the message out there for manifesting conscious creation is that you have to always be happy, you have to always be doing well, you have to always be positive, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's in sort of a way it's false, because nobody could be happy all the time. Nobody could be sad all the time. I think there's a level of faking it. If somebody's looking for misery all the time, I think they're faking the part that they want to actually be happy, because you're finding stimulation in misery, and that could give you stimulation too, because it does release some kind of hormone, in your body. But I think you can't fake what you feel, but you also have to sometimes view yourself from the outside and be capable of sort of applying
that's why
a new paradigm or a new application.
Because fake it till you make it is not a wrong concept. It's just the word fake it, I think, is misleading a little bit, because you can't actually fake it till you make it, but you can practice it. You can become it and practice being that within yourself, and then you do make it. You become that, because whether it's something good, bad, or neutral, you're becoming whatever you're practicing being, right?
Right. And you have to take all that and then again come to a good basis understanding of first being true to yourself, and then whoever else is involved. So you can't always be happy, but you have to seek to harmonize as much as you can every moment to make the best out of it, and live the best possible version that you can. That saying, remember, I don't know, something along those lines said, I think Voltaire, I always say it, but he said the only the only real obligation you have when you wake up in the morning is to put a smile on your face,
And do we always do that?
No, because you're caught up. You're caught up in the.
It's good to do that, and we notice the difference.
Yeah, you're caught up in the real world for everybody for different reasons. Whether someone's chasing to pay their bills or to do things on time, take their kids to school, or whatever. They want to have a house, and they've worked 20 years to save and get that, whatever it is. But
every day is different. It's just
right.
It's not something. It's not perfection that you're chasing. It's in that moment to. As elementary as it seems, and as oversimplified as it seems, it's just you reach for the best possible. You reach for the closest good feeling you can have. If that's just feeling okay instead of absolute shit, then that's
right.
Progress. And sometimes it's going from feeling kind of good to good. Sometimes it's whatever. But it's always a choice, and it's okay when you make the dips, right?
Yes,
Because
that could be a blessing in disguise. So sometimes you have to be aware that sometimes that dip that seems like is taking you back a step, it might actually take you forward 10 steps. If you're able to
neutralize it and not
neutralize
define
it
it as
and look
bad.
exactly, look at yourself from a different perspective, see the overall picture, apply a good, a healthy resolution or whatever it is to your day, to your moment, and I think it should be fine in that sense. And there are different levels of this. There are people who have major health issues, knock on wood, and people who go through so much stuff that we may have not experienced. Everybody experiences things on a different level, whether it's pain or whatever. So you can't. Some of this could come off to somebody who's experiencing constant chronic pain as like it doesn't. But again, it's sort of the same fundamental thing that if you apply sort of that happiness, or if you could smile and just release that, try to view the
that
things
little bit of relief in the moment. You don't have to go around with a smile plaster on your face. That's not going to do anything. It's also not going to help anyone, because if you see someone with a smile plaster on their face, you don't feel as good as when you see someone with a slight smile, genuine smile on their face. That person's going to uplift you more than someone who's always going, hey, like the politician. Sorry.
Yeah, and the same thing. I mean, I was like afraid of a lot of stuff. Like, number one, who's not afraid of death? But I experienced like a lot of people, passing away in my life, very close people, and I realized that at the end, even that, it's obviously if people pass away, like when their time isn't up yet, it's painful. It's hard to understand that, but at the end, we're all going to experience that. So it's sort of like even that, when you could accept through a positive light that, hey, there's a sort of belief, like my spirit, when it's our time, hopefully later, I hope everybody lives to at least like 100 or whatever, whenever they feel their time is right. But at the end, you think about it, you could even view that through a positive thing, because when you're done here, maybe your soul is going to go on another plateau. It's going to go into another energy form, or it's going to, go towards new frontiers that we're not aware of. So it's that too. It's like you could view that as a negative thing, or you could view it as a positive. Not positive. I mean, it's never positive. Death is not like positive when you're human experiencing. But on another realm, maybe, it means something else that it doesn't mean to us over here. So that's what I'm saying. It's sort of like the worst case scenario.
So we give meaning to whatever.
Yeah, and the worst case scenario where we never hold on to like everything permanently. There's gonna come a time where it's our time. So you got to make the best out of it.
I think it's about. I think like I don't remember what was I reading. I don't remember who it was, and maybe if I figure this out, I'll put it in description. You guys know that I often don't do what I say, so. But if I can remember, I'll put in the description after I figure it out. But I was reading something someone had said about the biggest epidemic in this world is lack of playfulness. Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we forget, and there's Florence Scovel Shinn's book, life, The Game of Life and How to Play It, and sometimes when I'm upset, I might even say, or I'll think, this isn't a game, but now when I say that in my mind, even I'll be like, actually it is supposed to be a game. So why am I so upset? Because I'm not playing it like a game. I'm forgetting that there's supposed to be
comedy,
playfulness, and like loose. You got to be loose, and that's why Bashar says the important thing in this life is the malleability. If you're not malleable, if you're stiff, then it's not going to be a fun ride. But if you can let loose, then you're going to have fun, and you're going to be able to enjoy your experiences.
That's why maybe comedians experience pain on such a deep level that they're able to make people laugh also on another level.
I mean, everyone experiences pain on deep level,
sensitivities
in some way, somehow.
And things,
and comedians are able to channel that into something that
so comedy is important. Every moment should have its healthy share.
Yeah, like we're the people
comedy
that, like,
or relief or something.
Like if we go to like an occasion where everyone's serious, whether it be like a sad occasion or just like everyone's. I don't want to use anything negative.
Wow, we were aiming for a 20-minute video. Now we could talk forever.
It's been 29 minutes already.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little beyond the last note. So
no.
So yeah, like if you go to what was I don't remember what my point was.
Sorry, I cut you off. If you go to
an event where everyone's like feeling negative, yeah, we're the ones who always go and like we'll maybe crack a joke, or like, yeah, you'll definitely at least say something a little light, like crack something a little light, and other people might see that as inappropriate. But what's more appropriate than saying something lighthearted in a moment that probably needs can use it, you know?
And partially because we come from a place where a lot of, not place, I mean, I don't want to sound like things, but yeah,
people don't laugh at themselves as much as
it's like, you know,
we tend to do sometimes. So
yeah, if you have Orthodox faith, it might be a little on the darker side than going to a, for example, a what do you call that, like a modern,
like an Abraham seminar.
No, not just Abraham. Like, what do you call the churches in like the South, like a Baptist church, you know, where they're dancing and they're speaking Aramaic, someone's rolling on the ground, there's music, loud drums, and you know, it's a happy experience. Or you go to an Orthodox church where it's like,
okay, not to knock Orthodox.
We're not knocking it down.
Okay,
but I'm saying
he has a bit of a not traumatic, but like not great association with that, because when he was younger, he remembers like walking into the church, and maybe it's that specific church he had gone into, but it didn't feel enlightening.
Yeah.
It
I feel comedy,
dark and fear.
Exactly, I feel comedy has just as much equal value in that moment than the darkness. But I mean, it's not going to be about heightened comedy. I mean, we're not here to see a comedy show. We're at a church, but we don't have to be so down about it.
Did you know Neville said a light bulb, like I ruined this like I ruin every quote, but he said something.
Oh
yeah, it annoyed me because I can't.
The light bulb
lights a brothel just as it lights a church. You know,
exactly.
So
it doesn't make it.
Now, I'm not saying.
Yes.
I'm not calling a brothel holy, but.
But the light doesn't see a difference. Yeah,
the
light will light up anything.
And I think that's so important, because like when it comes to like worthiness, people say about manifesting, like, I don't know if I feel worthy. It's like, if
let the light be in you.
If the light lights a brothel, my cup is right there. Look, it says "Be the light."
Oh, nice.
Yeah. If the light bulb will light anything, then so does, you know, your God self. That's what it is. That's the.
Be the light. Let it run through you, ladies and gentlemen. Marshalls.
That's a new mug I haven't used yet. But yeah, so it's not about deserving, not deserving, right or wrong, appropriate, inappropriate. Everyone. This is why Neville said, you have to appropriate, you know, what you want. Make it appropriate to your life. So shift your self-concept to a point where this thing you want is appropriate to you. Because at first it feels foreign, right? It feels like, but that's not me. I can't see myself like that.
So when people say God willing, God is willing.
Yeah, God is willing. Are you willing?
You have to be able to see through the thing. But you know,
see, he's bringing up stuff that I like. I'm too, like,
but that's the thing. But people have to remember that the world is governed by different laws. So when it's split into like a binary system to sustain and have contrast, when it's split into that from that energy or whatever it came from, it gave contrast. It gave the man and the woman.
The Garden of Eden.
So, sure, and then we you know, interpret that into drawings and etchings to have a better physical explanation of it. But if you think about it, yeah, it's governed by all those laws. So there's this contrast. And the laws are important. Yeah. They're no respecter of
exactly of persons.
So
it's all the same. You have just as much ability and just as much worthiness as anybody else who has maybe something you already want.
We're all receptive and sensory creatures, you know, and so we're all experiencing things through different like nuances, different colors. I think people
are going to be suggesting that you have your own channel, because you're getting even deeper into this than I do. I like to go over the surface just enough to practically apply it. But yeah, I mean,
stay in orbit. Go with the flow, and you can make your moves. I don't know. It's all beautiful when you just realize that, like, you know, how all this just gives us what we need. You know, that's the beauty of it. That everything's there. It's sort of up to us to experience it, and we're gonna experience down days. It's part of the reality that there's a balancing dark, just as there is a light. You can't always be on the light, because if you're always on the light, then I gotta say, I mean, you're a passive farm animal. You're fooling yourself. Food.
No, you're fooling. Yeah, you're fooling yourself.
But you're food to a predator.
You're fooling yourself, because that's not possible. Like, literally this human experience is meant for us to, you know, live and understand what we want. You can't understand. I'm not saying you have to experience a lot of contrast to know what you want, but a certain, you know, to not have contrast and not notice things you don't like is not normal. That's not the nature of the
contrast gives you strength. That's where you have to take that sort of down and try to, not try, but just come above that.
That's why, like, I don't know if you know those Abraham Hicks that have, like, it used to be like 3 steps. It's like, you ask, and you do that without even realizing it because you want something, right? You realize you want something. 2 is that source already gives it to you, and 3 is alignment. So basically, you move from asking to alignment, which is the receptive mode, which is you no longer feel the lack of it, right? And then they added 2 more steps. Step 4 is when you're really good at step 3. So you're able to allow things to come in more easily you have a habit of having less resistance. And then step 5 is when you're back in step 1 where you're feeling the lack of something or you desire something, but you're not pissed that you're back in that step. It's that you can look at the contrast and say, oh, okay, I don't like this, I like this. And you're not angry about it because you realize that you don't have to be stuck there, you know? Yes. So it's the non-resisting to contrast that makes the whole experience just flow more in your favor.
Yep.
All right. So, are we done?
We're done. Good meeting you, everybody.
If you guys have any questions for us or either one of us about anything.
Either one of us. Don't bring me into your practice. I'm just kidding.
Well, you said you'd come back if you have questions.
I'll come back. I'll be here.
So, if you have any questions, please comment below. And then we'll try to answer them, or most of them, in another video. And that's it, right?
That's it. And enjoy your day. And make the best out of it.
If you like this video,
I'll try to do the same for myself.
If you like this video, please click like. If you'd like to subscribe and you haven't done so yet, please do. And click the bell for notifications if you actually want to hear, like, hey, they're on right now, or she's on right now. What is this, like our show now? And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Thank you.